All righty. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Conversations with Cheryl. I am your host, Cheryl Mays, and I'm super excited to have you here this morning joining me for our second installment in this pretty fun conversation. Um, as I said before, I started Coffee and Conversations as a community engagement event a couple of years ago where I would go into the community, just sit and have conversations, intentional conversations in the community with a variety of different people. And thanks to the pandemic, my favorite word these days is pivot. And so I have had to pivot to something a little bit different. And actually, it's a lot more engaging, I think. So now the pivot for me for 2021 is going to be holding these conversations virtually with some really cool people. And this morning, I have one of those really cool people. I think she's a superwoman myself, and I'm sure you will after you have an opportunity to listen to her. So, welcome to the conversation, Miss Lindsey Smith, president of the Davidson County Young Democrats. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome. Go ahead and tell us who you are. Introduce yourself.
Oh my God, thank you. You calling me a cool person, I'm gonna write about that in my diary later on. Just kidding. Throwing some jokes in here. But yeah, I'm Lindsey Smith. I'm a passionate young Democrat. I'll go into a little background of how I got started in politics. So it was 2016, and it was November, election night. And then I was like, oh God, no. Surely, I was telling myself, I was like, well, I told all of my friends to vote on Facebook, so like, how can the results not be what I want it to be? We didn't get the turnout that we wanted. So the Women's March, they started planning it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna book a ticket, and I'm gonna fly to DC, and I'm gonna go march in the streets and protest. So while I was there, I realized when I was standing among the hundreds of thousands of other people that were just as passionate as I was and just as angry as I was, and it was in that moment I thought, wow, what if we organized like this on this scale every single day, and not just for presidential elections but also for local and state elections? So from there I started getting involved, and I interned with the Tennessee Democratic Party, and I met this really amazing organizer who taught me pretty much everything I know. Chaz Uffelman, woo woo, that's my best friend. So I started working with him there. He taught me how to do things. I started volunteering on campaigns. And then from there, I started working on the Carl Dean for Governor campaign in 2018. We did not get the election results that we wanted, and we are stuck with individual X right now. I'm just not even going to say his name. I don't have the energy for that. and um, we didn't get the results that we wanted, but I did go into the community organizing, and that's where I built a lot of friendships and relationships in the community. And from there, I met at-large Councilmember Bob Mendez, and I started working on his campaign. Not to toot our horns here, but to also toot our horns, he was the only candidate in a crowded field of 15 to win re-election. Well, not re-election, but to win outright. So we avoided the runoff. That was amazing.
Oh, no, toot toot. Go ahead, toot toot. Yes.
I mean, like Bob and Catherine, like we're a phenomenal team. So yeah, Team Mendez is my heart, and they're super intelligent and incredible and kind, and super down to earth. Like when I tell you, I can like go on and on about them like nonstop. I will do it. So you have to just pump my brakes.
I love it.
Um, and from there, I started working in Congressman Jim Cooper's office, and I started out as his district scheduler, and then I worked my way to work on this super awesome project called Vote Early TN. If you haven't heard of it, I am embarrassed. If you have, shout out to you. And that is where we wanted to engage community members and have them take full advantage of all 14 days of early voting, because I mean, like, Tennessee is a voter suppression state, and like one of the real benefits that we have is those 14 days of voting. So that was super cool. And when I wasn't doing all of that stuff, I was a New Leaders Council fellow in 2019, so right before the pandemic hit, and that's where they build progressive infrastructure across the state between labor, elections, government, education, and so on. And when I wasn't doing that, I was also still volunteering and working with the Davidson County Young Democrats. At first, I was just a volunteer. Then I became a secretary, and then I became president. So here I am now, super excited to talk about all the things Democratic, all the things politics. So
Lindsay, it's too bad you don't really have a lot going on in your life right now. Um, yeah, I'm sitting over here like, am I really doing anything? Because this young woman is killing the game. Oh
and
my
that's how I feel
God.
whenever anyone tells their life story, and I'm just like, all right, I need to get my life together.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's amazing. So you talked a little bit about your rise through the ranks and now becoming president of the Davidson County Young Democrats. So tell us, those who are listening who may want to get engaged or who may not really know a lot about this organization, tell us what you do. Tell us how others can get engaged.
Okay, well, if you haven't heard of the Davidson County Young Democrats, I'm going to break down the structure really quick. So, you have our statewide party, the Tennessee Democratic Party, where we have Hendrell Remus as the chairman. And then you have different subcategories. You have the Tennessee Young Democrats, you have county parties, and we're like a subcategory under the Tennessee Young Democrats. So each county has their or should has there. We are working to build a Young Dems chapter in each of the counties. So that's where you find Davidson County Young Democrats. And with us, we're just a pack of young, angry, engaged people that work to get Democrats elected, whether we volunteer, do a little something on the side, or actually run their campaigns, whether that be Metro Council or like a state representative or state senator. Like we are on it. Like young Dems. I can't say that we're the backbone, but then I also can't say that we're not the backbone. So
Yeah,
we
but
put in a lot of work. We put in a lot of work. How about that?
I think you are building and building and building. And so you are definitely, well, you may not be the only piece of the backbone. Our young people are definitely right in there as part of it. And so that leads me to my next question, which, you and I have talked about this a little bit. Getting and keeping young people engaged. And I have to apologize because based on the conversation you and I have, and let me just tell y'all something, Lindsay will check you in the kindest way, and I love it. So let me correct myself in saying getting them engaged because they've always been engaged. I want to know from you what young people are doing right now to continue that engagement. We saw a lot in 2020. We saw a lot in 2020, and I have not never been so proud. And I think the reason we were able to see so much was because we were living in a pandemic and we all had to basically sit down and just watch what was happening. But our young people said, yeah, I'm not going to sit on the sidelines even this year. So tell us what our young people are doing to continue to move that needle in political engagement.
I am so happy that you asked this question. But first, I want to address this myth. And this myth is that, older people, I'm just gonna flat out say, I'm gonna say boomers. We're just gonna shorten it and say boomers on this Zoom.
And no offense there, my friend, because I know where you're going.
There's this myth that young people don't care, that young people aren't engaged, and that they don't get involved unless something extreme happens. And they'll probably even try to pull up some statistics and compare, like, oh, but boomers voted this way, and millennials and Gen Z, whatever they're, Gen Z, they're like millennials and Gen Z, like, they don't even come out. And it's like, first of all, we're going to cut that crap right now. People always ask me, what are you doing to get your demographic out? What are you doing to keep them engaged? And I would like to flip that question back on them because last time I checked, I was a black woman. And black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. And we turn out every single election and we vote how we are supposed to. We vote with humanity. We vote with our humanity. So, like, I don't even want to hear that argument. Next thing, I'm young and, like, I get that. And they try to show me these statistics and be like, oh, but what about? And I'm like, let's also nip that in the bud right there. What I see and what the question that I try to pose to people is, what are you doing to get your demographic to stop creating more barriers for my demographic to get involved in the political process? What are you doing to make sure that we can have college IDs to vote? What are you doing to get rid of the college polling location deserts that we have in Davidson County? Specifically, we have Fisk, we have Lipscomb, we have TSU, we have Meharry, we have Vanderbilt, we have all these other colleges. Apologies if I haven't named it. And like none of them are a polling location. The closest one that we got to a polling location is Friendship Baptist Church, right next to TSU's
Right.
campus. But
Right.
like that's it. You know how many college students are like trying to vote, but then they don't have the means or the transportation to do that?
Right.
What are you doing to make sure that your demographic isn't signing crazy voter suppression, Jim Crow era laws into effect? What is like that's not young people doing that. That's old people. That's boomers. Like, so don't hit me with young people are not engaged. Not you, Cheryl, but I'm just saying, like, to the people out there. Because, like, young people, we've been engaged. We are on these campaigns volunteering and running them and doing all of this other things. Like, we are extremely engaged.
Hmm.
Um, but the truth is that we just face more barriers in
Yeah.
terms of access to the ballot. So
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like,
And you just posed the question of the day. What are you doing? What are you doing? Dot, dot, dot. So,
because what I see young
yeah,
people in these streets protesting. I
yeah.
see young people, at least, like, if they can't physically go out and protest, then at least they're calling it out on their social media and getting the
Mhm.
word out and doing their activism. But, like, boomers, what y'all doing? Like, are y'all the ones who vote every 4 elections? Miss me with that. So let's
Now
know.
you all understand why I was so excited to have this young woman in the conversation today, because she is a truth teller and she is going to speak her truth, and it's not going to matter. Yeah, I'm done. I'm just,
like young people are we are engaged, and the way
yeah.
to engage with if you're young, you're out there and you're watching this and you want to get involved, but you're not sure how to. What I like originally started doing, I was like, let me look up some Democratic stuff. Let me look at my county party. And then I found out about the Young Dems. I went to Pride one year and I saw this booth and they were like Davidson County Young Democrats. And I was like, I identify as a Democrat. I am young. Like, can I please come to a meeting? And they were like, oh my God, yeah, sure. And I understand that with the pandemic, it's like super hard to get out there and meet new people, and like also virtual fatigue, Zoom fatigue. That's very real because sometimes I
Yeah.
suffer for no, I suffer from that like every single week,
Right.
and I get it. But if you really want to get engaged, just go ahead, follow the Young Dems. Hopefully we reach mass vaccination sometime soon where we can start having in-person events because it was so fun. We used to in 2019 we were having like 3 events a month, and like it was pretty stressful because that was also during like campaign season, but it was so fun, and like there's just so much joy in bonding and working towards a common goal with people that you identify with.
Mhm.
um, when y'all are working towards the same goal and you're like, okay, I want to see Democrats elected. Okay, I care about this candidate because XYZ. Okay, I want to see you succeed. So that's really the environment that we have here. And I love all of the Young Dems so much with all of my heart. And I would also want to give a shout out to the entire board. Like, they're the ones that keep everything going. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I love it. So you've got me thinking about several different other things. Um, thank you for the clarification on, let's not say that our young people are not engaged, because we've been there probably a lot more engaged than some other demographics. And having said that, what I'd really love to see, and I want your feedback on this, how can we get more young people to step across that line and run for office? That's what I'd love to see.
I
Let's,
think
before you answer that, let's just be honest. Who are making, the people that are making the decisions, the people that are shutting our individuals like Representative Cannon out of offices where she has a right to be? Old white men. So how can we get our young people more engaged in the process? I'd love to see them running for office. Now you can answer, because I'm really excited about this.
I think a way to do that is one, letting them know that you have support. I've never run for office before, but I can only imagine, like, not only do we face so many barriers when it comes to voting, but actually, like, not, so we face all of those barriers. And then people ask us, okay, but when are you going to run for office? And I'm just like, my demographic can't even, like, get there. Like, what do you mean? So I think we need help with fighting to get more millennials access to the ballot first. And then also a lot of older people, and I'm going to say it, boomers, straight white men, they'll be like, you know what? Nope, it's not your time. You're too young. And it's just like, don't you dare tell a young person that it is not their time to run for office. Because if you do not have an expiration date of when you want to create change and be in office and like be able to pass the torch, then you shouldn't be running it in the first place. Like, I don't have time for that. So the way I see it, I see more young candidates like Representative AOC. Like, she is an inspiration to us all. She inspired this lipstick look. I'm not even gonna lie. Love her with my entire heart. But I think seeing more members like the squad, seeing more people like in our state legislature, we have young Dems in there right now, and more young people running for office. But not even just them running for office. Like, we need to be able to support them. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the most active when I did see like someone young running for office. So like that's on me. But I think we need to offer them more support because like already we're starting like 10 feet behind the starting line, whereas everyone
Right.
else is like, eh. And like, you need to take us seriously. We know what we mean. Like, when we talk about climate change, when we talk about criminal justice reform, and not even just criminal justice reform, because like, you can't reform a system that needs to be uprooted and replaced in the first place. So
Amen.
I just,
Right, right.
I have, and that's not even a radical view. That's just like a view of humanity. Like,
Right, right.
I want to see my people succeed. I want to see people that look like me succeed. I want to see young people succeed, and I want to see black people succeed. I'm rooting for everybody black. I'm rooting for everybody young. So,
And I love it. And so, I am a former elected official and I've run for a couple of offices. And so what I can tell you to your point is it's support is extremely important. If you don't have that support, if you don't have those people around you who are going to continue to push you and hit the ground for you and make those phone calls and knock on those doors and, do that fundraising, all of that is part of it. And sometimes even when you do your absolute best and you have done that and you have killed the game, it doesn't really turn out in your favor because of people's lack of voting. If they are passive about getting out after all of that, and they are passive about going to the poll and casting their vote, even I've known some people who've run incredible, incredible campaigns, and they have not been successful at the poll because people have been so passive about voting. And maybe it's because we've had so many elections.
and Davidson County has had like what,
Yeah,
50 since 2018?
we have had our fair share of elections in Davidson County in the last 2 years, and people are just like, you know what? I'm just going to go and get some popcorn. I'll
They're
sit
like,
this
but I just voted in that one. What do you mean there's another one? I
exactly.
remember having people tell me that in 2018, and I was like, but there's another one coming up, and this one is like the runoff. And they're like, okay, but what did I just vote in? And I'm like, I get
Exactly.
it. There's like real confusion there. Um,
Exactly. So I think there are a lot of things that go into it, but I would still love to see younger people running for office. And that'll lead me to my next question for you. And the reason that I would love to see young people is because I'm really interested to know what issues are more pressing for young people right now. What are you hearing from the young people that you are around about what's important to them? And I say that because as a boomer, I just want you to know that one of the things that I love to do is work with young people every single day. That gives me energy, that gives me joy, makes me happy because young people are innovative, they are creative, they are super duper smart. And here's a little secret, they're our future. So I want to know what's important to them so that I can support in that effort, because at some point they're going to be making decisions about me. And I want to know that I'm on the right track and that we're doing all that we can. So what are you hearing in the community that the issues that are rising to the top right now?
Well, before I answer that question, I was really marinating on the last one still. Like, what can we do to get more young people running for office?
Yeah.
So another barrier that we face, we don't have all of the resources, and also in school, because some of them are just coming out of high school, just coming out of college, and they don't tell you all of the different like positions, like. We have
Yeah.
the judges races coming up, like general sessions. Pretty sure like they never taught us about that in school. Like,
Mhm.
so I think people don't fully understand what each position does. Hopefully this pandemic has like shown a light, whichever. Hopefully like it's brought to light like, okay, this is what happens when this elected official does this is what they
Right.
control, and so
Right.
on and so on. So resources, education, all of that. And then to go to this last question, what issues do we care about? Mm, there's really not an issue that we don't care about. I know one of the most pressing ones is climate change. One, because it's real. Two, because it's affecting our future and yours too.
Mhm.
Um, and like the scariest part is that climate change is happening right now. So that's, I mean, like, if you're in Nashville, like, you've seen all that crazy weather that we just had. We had a tornado, a derecho, a snowstorm, and more, all in the span of 11 months. Like,
Hailing this morning. There was hail and there's still some thunderstorms going on. So yeah.
and that woke me up before my alarm. So now I feel disrespected about climate change directly this morning. So there's that. And then also, I touched a little bit on criminal justice reform, but not even just the reform. Like, we need to uproot the entire system. Um, I just got a notification from AP News that George Floyd's passing, his murder, I mean, it was more than just like anything else that has happened. Like, it was a movement. Like, I mean, like, young people, we are so passionate about every single issue. To just pick one is, ooh. And then, like, to talk about in Georgia, where they just passed a bill that puts a lot of limits on voting for young people, black people, poor people, working people. Just say that you hate us and that you're racist, but don't make no bill on it. Like, it's Saturday. Just stick to your regular racism, but like, not even that. I know that was a joke. I shouldn't joke like that. Don't be racist. What did AOC? Drink water and don't be racist. Don't be passing all these bills to reform an election that, like, if we're gonna reform the election, then we need to make it easier for people to access the
Right.
ballot.
Right. Not more
Like,
difficult.
they're so scared. I mean, it's no longer democracy when you can pick and choose who and who cannot come to the ballot box.
Right.
So
And it's really interesting to me too. I was struck by a lot of the commentary that I've seen since all of this has happened. And one of the most telling was a conversation or something that I saw on social media where there was a picture of a water bottle and a picture of an AK-47. And the basic premise was one of these is okay at the voting poll in Georgia, and it's not water, which
you can
is,
bring a gun. Oh no,
we're making it a
they're
lot
crazy down
easier.
there.
We're making it a lot
Crazy.
easier, a lot harder to cast votes, specifically because the people who are in power want to stay in power, and they know that we are tired, we are fed up, we've had enough of the bullshiggity, and it's time to move them out of the way. And so they see that happening, and they are creating these stoppages to make sure that the vote is suppressed. So here's the other thing that has been, I've been watching this silently, and I say silently because I like to see what's happening. One of the things that I have noticed, and this has been over probably the last 5 or 6 or 8, 10 years that I've been watching this happen. Democrats are super reactionary. Republicans are, well, they are
They're like proactive in all of their BS.
very
Like,
much so. Very
they're
much
just like,
so.
you know what? I'm gonna think 10 years ahead, and I'm gonna be like, okay, how can I prevent that from ever happening again? And I'm
Right.
just like,
Right.
And they know how to stay on brand, stick together, even when they have like molesters, rapists,
Exactly.
all that
Exactly.
crazy stuff. And
Exactly.
Democrats, like, come on, we just got to get our stuff together. Like that minimum wage,
Right.
minimum wage not being in the American Rescue Plan Act.
Right. Right.
Like,
So yeah.
don't campaign on an issue that you weren't about to fight for. Come on.
Exactly.
No.
And that is the bottom line. There's the mic dropper right there. If you're going to campaign on it, you better be ready to fight for it
They're
because
like, we need you to turn out so that we can have a $15 minimum wage. And we did what we were supposed to do. And now we need y'all to do what we elected you to do. And what
exactly.
I like to tell people whenever I make a decision based on like what's wrong or right or what's just and unjust, I always like flip it on politicians. And I'm just like, are you making a decision to stay in office, or are you making a decision a decision to create change? It's
Mm,
always one of the two. Like any situation is pointed out, and it's just like you are doing that so that you will stay in office, but you are
right.
not doing that to actually create change
Right.
because you know deep down that this is wrong. So
And let me tell you how you can always tell, depending on whatever that term looks like, whether it's a 2-year, 4-year, 6-year, 8-year term, what you'll see primarily, and I watch a lot of people, what you'll see primarily with newly elected or reelected individuals, depending on their term in that first year after reelection, they are knocking down doors and walking the pavement and saying, hey, let's do this together. The closer it gets to reelection, they start to walk along that line of what do
scale
I
it
need to
back.
do? Exactly. What's most popular right now? How do I make sure that I maintain this so that I can get that reelection or election vote? What do I need to do? And that's the thing. To your point, if you're walking into this thing constantly thinking about getting reelected, please go and play in the sand on the beach because
Like
we
this
don't
ain't for
need you there.
you.
We
Please
don't need you.
next. Thank you
Yes,
next.
exactly. So if you're not doing that for the right reasons, then the big question is, why are you doing it?
Like
And
why are you so obsessed? Like why are you more in love with the thought of power than in love with the thought of change?
exactly.
I just
Where's my mic? I need to drop the mic right there. Yeah,
here, I'll
absolutely.
just drop my phone. There you
Thank
go.
you. That is absolutely the question. That is absolutely the question. This has been a great conversation. And so we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. In that 3 or 4 minutes, I want you to tell us how we can support the Davidson County Young Democrats, how we can support the go forward, how we can support in this, we call it social justice reform, but really reform is not the word that we need to be using.
Social
Change.
justice movement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what do we do to make sure that everything that we do, in not just in politics, but across the board, we're doing it in an equitable manner? Because what some of the decisions that are being made are not for everybody, and we know that. So talk to us about the go forward. What do you see happening, and how can we support?
So there were like a few questions packed in there, and I heard like one, so I'm gonna answer one at a time.
Yeah, I'm the queen of packing 5 questions into one, babe.
I'm like crossing my. I'm like, okay, okay. Let me make sure I have all this. Um, the equitable part, making sure that we like move forward in this movement. I just have a simple message. Listen to Black women. The next question: how can you support the Davidson County Young Democrats? Word of mouth, financial support. I was talking about earlier how young people don't get the support that they always need. Go ahead, contribute to DCYD, whether it's $5, 25, 2,500. Yo, Stimmy, it don't matter. We'll accept it. You can go to dcyd.org, donate there, go to our webpage, Davidson County Young Democrats. Boom, we're right there. The other questions have already slipped me.
Well, so in your opinion, what does the go forward look like? What can we do to support?
The go forward, just in the movement in general.
Yes, yeah.
I think the go forward is that the future is female and it is young
Mhm.
and it is a woman of color. Like that's what I think. When I think about politics, I think of all of the women in color in politics. And and all of the change makers, and like it is women of color that are like pushing and like getting like and like doing all the activism. Like we just saw in Georgia, it was a black woman, it was a black
Mhm.
elected official that put her body on the line. Well, I'm pretty sure she didn't know at the time, like none of us knew that knocking on a door to try and see the signing of a bill
In a
was,
state
now
house
they're calling it a
where
felony.
it's a public state house. Okay, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The people's house. Like I
Right,
just,
right, right.
mm.
That's
So
unfair.
uplifting black women, protecting black women. I mean, it really just comes down to that. And then also, we need to disrupt, dismantle, and eradicate white supremacy. Because that's, I saw someone, they're like, white supremacy is the denominator in like all of the issues that we face. And like, that's true, whether it's like gun control, racial justice, the social unrest that we've seen, like voter suppression, like climate, all of it. So that's
No.
that's really the message. Call it out. Be a co-conspirator, not an ally. Don't just sit up and talk the talk, but also walk the walk. As my Reverend Shariz Najamaray always says, I love her to death.
She's awesome.
Isn't she like? Hey, Shariz, now if you're watching,
Hey,
I
Sharizna.
love her so much. But yeah, just those little simple pieces. Like it's so simple, like it's not that hard. Just boom.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
So this has been, as I expected, an amazing conversation. I am so excited to not only be in your space, but to support you. You are, and take this how you want it. You're a superstar. You're a superstar. And I love seeing you grow. I love seeing everything that you're doing. I know that anytime that I am in your presence, I'm going to get schooled. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to learn something from you. So I love sitting and watching, especially when Lindsey turns it on. All you have to do is go in the back of the room, sit down and shut up, because she's going to give it to you. So I thank you for your dedication to what you do every single day. You are engaged, you are important, you are creative, you are innovative, and you're pretty awesome all around. I just absolutely enjoy having
I'm going
conversations.
to scream.
I
This is
really do
going on my
enjoy having
journey.
conversations with you, and I love watching how you continue to grow and how you continue to rise. And I am here to support you in any effort that you need me for, my dear. So thank you, Miss Lindsey, for joining us for our coffee and conversation this morning. And we will be chatting very soon. So everybody, stay safe out there. We will see you. The next time we'll see you is April 10th, right here live on Facebook. And I've got a special guest that I will be promoting starting next week. So have a great day, everybody. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.